Creating and organising users in Google Apps for Education. So this is just a brief guide on how to create users and how you should organise users, or at least some options for organising users. So if you've just set up Google Apps for Education, you'll probably have one or a couple of users perhaps that you've created, super admin users who have access to the admin console, as you can see on the screen here. So if you want to add more users, you need to click on Users, and before you go ahead and create lots of users, what I would strongly advise you to do is to create some sub-organizations to organize how your users are deployed in your domain. For example, students I would recommend putting into year groups. And then within those year groups, if you wanted to, you could put them into further sub-organizational units. The point of putting them into sub-organizational units is to make them easier to manage, so they're not all in one place. But more importantly, it means you can deploy policies to one sub-organizational unit and different policies to another sub-organizational unit, just like you can with Chrome OS devices. So before we create any users, let's look at how to organize users. Down the side here you'll have organization. You'll have your root domain, in my case wheatleypark.org, and then you'll have sub-organizational units that you've created. So for example, I've got students here, and within students there's a sub-organizational unit for each year group. Each year group is given a name based on the year they enter the school. So these are the youngest students to the oldest students up here. I also have sub-organizational units for teaching staff, support staff. I don't have any people in parents yet, that's something I've been looking at. IT support, governors, external mentors and Chrome OS devices, and you can have as many as you want and organize it however you want. To create a sub-organizational unit, you won't have any of these to start with, you'll just have the top one. So you can create a little drop down here, add sub-organization, and then you'd give your sub-organization a name, a description, so you can remind yourself about who you're putting in there, and then place this organization under, and then you have a choice. If you've created lots of sub-organizational units already, you can pop them into wherever you want. Okay, and just choose I want to create this sub-organization within Chrome devices. Not something I do with users, but you could. So that will create some structure for you, and I would create those sub-organizations first. Once you've created your sub-organizations, what you can do is create some users. Now the simplest way to create a user is by clicking on the plus person button, add user manually, continue. Does that from time to time, it'll sign you out. So if I click on add user manually, continue, you need to come up with some naming convention for your users. So we just have first name, last name as their real first name, last name. Primary email address. For members of staff we have first initial surname, and for students we have something like Fred Blogs 10. So the surname is capitalized, and at the end you've got their year of entry, not the full year of entry, just the last 2 digits of it. So this user would have started in 2010. You can choose to set the password if you want, and you can choose to see whether they require a change. So that will create one user. You can then take users and move them to another organization. So if you've just got your root here and you've created a few organizations, you might want to put these users. You can select multiple users and you can click on add to another organizational unit. So you get to browse the list of organizational units you've got. There might be a student, there might be a student from 2014, and then it'll ask you, do you really want to move these people into that OU? In my case, I'm not going to, so I'm going to click on cancel. Okay, I want these ones in the root of my domain. Okay, let's just go back so we can see the organizational units again. So to create multiple users, which is probably what you're going to be doing at the start of an academic year, you click on add several users at once, CSV file upload, click on continue. You'll be presented with some instructions then, and you will need a CSV file organized in columns with headers that looks like this. Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I've tried doing this with the latest version of Google Sheets, and it doesn't produce a CSV file in the right format. So I'm doing this with Excel. So if I go into Excel, which I've got open here, I've got the column headers as we've got there. And it has to be exactly as it is there, otherwise it won't work. You will then extract your list of users from wherever you've got a list of users and names. So we use SIMS, which is an information management system, and you can run a report and it'll pull off all your users for you. So whatever you do, you need to have a list of users. So I'll just put in one user manually, but in reality I'd be pasting these in. So I've got a user called Fred Blogs, and he's going to have a password. You can give people random passwords if you want all the same. I tend to give them all the same password to start with, and require a password change there the first time they log in. It's a lot simpler. The email address, you need to convert this into an email address, and the easiest way to do that is with a simple formula. So I'm going to put equals Fred, then we need an ampersand, blogs, oops, not that one, that one, and then we need to, in my case we have the year of entry, so if this was a year group, let's say I'm putting them to the new one, it'll be a 14 on the end, putting that in quotes, it's just a bit of text, and then we can put the domain name on the end. So you only need to do this once for all your users. Weeklypart.org, that looks right. Okay, and what that does is create the username. And if you had a long list of names here, all you do is just copy that formula down and it would make all the usernames. What I'd do then is, I'm not going to do this one for one cell, but I'd do this for all the cells. I'd copy that and paste the value, just the value. We want the raw value, not the formula, going in there. So we will now have a long list of users and a username, and we can actually delete that column with the formula in, and that's it. So we need to save that. Save it into my downloads, and we need to save that as a CSV file. Now there's two CSV file options in Excel. This is 2013. You want CSV comma delimited as opposed to CSV MS-DOS. That one won't work. This one will. So you click on save. It'll tell you you're going to lose some formatting options. Click on yes. Okay, and now we can get rid of Excel. We don't need to save that, we've already done it. At this point you can require a password change, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to choose the CSV file, which is there in my downloads, and I'm going to upload and continue. Now I've only got one user here, you could have hundreds, thousands. Okay. I've got an error in my email address there, so I'm going to upload a different file. Let's edit that one. This happens, you get errors in these files. And I can see what the error is. I've misspelt the domain name, so let's edit that. and I'm editing in a text editor, but this is where I typed in the formula wrong, so all your users would be wrong. There we go. We'll go back and do this has happened many times to me. You make one character mistake and it all goes horribly wrong, but it doesn't go horribly wrong. There you go. So it won't let you get the domain name wrong. It'll tell you if there's anything wrong. One thing that often happens with this is you accidentally put spaces in, and of course email addresses can't have spaces in, and it will throw up errors for the odd one. So it'll give you a preview of what you're about to upload, and then just confirm and upload. I'm not going to upload Fred blogs. And if you're creating a lot of users, it will take a few minutes, and you will get an email saying these users have been created successfully, or these users have been created successfully and these users have errors, and probably something wrong with the email address. Okay, and that will automatically create as many users as you can imagine creating in one go. What you'll need to do then is organize those users as I did earlier by multiply selecting them and then adding them to whatever organization they belong to, whatever sub-organization. So if they were students in 2014 or wherever, you'd put them there and they would have then the appropriate policies applied to them. And that's kind of all there is to it. It's not very difficult. To create a year group takes me, I don't know, no more than half an hour, and most of that is checking the data and just making sure there's no errors. To actually create the CSV file from an export takes a few minutes, and to upload them takes no time at all. So it's very quick and easy to manage and create users. The other way of doing it, if you're starting from scratch and you work in a Windows Active Directory environment, if you're not working in a Windows Active Directory environment at school, this is irrelevant, but there is a tool that you can add to a machine on your domain, a Windows domain join machine that's on all of the time, so perhaps a virtual machine that you've got running, and you can download the Windows Active Directory connector, and what it will do is synchronize the users in your Active Directory structure to your Google Apps domain. There's a very good guide on the Google Enterprise support about how to use that. Use it with care. It needs a lot of planning. There are users that you'll need to exclude from the synchronization, super administrators being one of them, otherwise it's entirely possible to lock yourself out from your domain very easily. I don't use the Windows Active Directory connector because the CSV upload and managing users is really very simple, and I don't particularly like the complication. Hopefully you might have found that useful. Thank you.